Hello everyone, I'm thrilled to announce the season 2 of Lazy Motion Library, and now I prefer to call it just Lazy Motion because it's easier. And let's get into the mini tutorial. I'm gonna upload this as a whole video and also chop this up into mini tutorials as well. So first of all, let's begin with the first asset in season 2. These are 20 plus assets here, and we're gonna start with the droplet creator. So this is not an asset. I'm not counting it as an asset, but I'm just adding it here. So it basically comes with the H2O add-on that is now part of the Lazy Motion. So it just gives you a droplet object that you can use later in instancing, and it is procedural, so you can change size and this random factor and this Z scale just like that. And then you have some shape randomness. So this is basically just a droplet creator. And for the next one, we have the unfold one. So this is basically a really cool asset. If you just add a plane, this is basically for labels and stuff like that. So if I add a plane, scale it, I'm going to subdivide it a few times, and then I just have unfold, drag it and drop it onto the label. Now what this is doing, it's a little bit of a glitch, but I haven't figured out a fix to it. But you just have to go to the edit mode and scale down your mesh just like so. As long as it's not fixed, you're gonna have to keep scaling down. So just like that, this is now fixed and this is working. Now you can move this forward like this and the label is gonna unfold. Now you can change the range, which is this thing, and rotation. You can invert it and the rotation over here. Sometimes your label is messed up, you can change these axes like this and it will fix it. Now if you wanted it to fold on the shorter end, so you can just RZ90 and it's now folding on that side like this. I'm sure you can figure out this asset. It's gonna take a lot of experimentation with these settings to get this right, and I'm sure you're gonna figure it out easily. You can do this along a curve as well. So let's say if I have a label, I'm gonna use a curved circle here, and I must break this circle as well. So right click and subdivide this a few times like this, and then what I want to do is over here select these two, hit Y to separate these and delete these. Now I can hit E and shift S cursor to selected, shift S selection to cursor, and just scale it down to 0. Now I have filled it, but actually it is separated. You can see that. This is a very important step here. Now what I'm going to do is basically I will select this curve over here in the setup, and I'm gonna remove the X and set it to Z axis. Now I'm gonna hit Alt G on this and GZ, move it into place, hit Alt S and maybe scale it up a little bit so that it can fit the surface of the mesh. And now if move the progression, you can see it's moving like this. I'm gonna scale it up a little bit so that it's not moving into the mesh. And if I move this back, this is the label turning and wrapping around the product. How cool is this? You might want to change these text axes while you do something. So if a label is standing on a product like this on a horizontal axis, you might want to use the Z axis there, and test axis is on 1. And then if you have something that is flat, these X and Y are going to help. So yeah, there's an extra feature if you want to use it. There's a reverse curve. So yeah, I think it might help, but not in this scenario. I'm gonna turn it off for now. Yeah, it helps, but when it's flat. And then we have fit curve length. Yeah, this is just some deformation stuff. We have offset along curve. This is a little offset. Then you have some shrink wrap onto the object. You can just select the object over there if you want to shrink wrap it onto it. But this is very experimental legacy. I want you to use the first options and not these. Of course, they will help in scenarios where you want to use them, but I don't recommend them yet. So these settings are enough for you for now, and these work on a flat surface only. So wrapping around a flat circle is consistent along the z-axis. It's a 2D kind of thing right now. Yeah, this is the unfold thing. You can unfold anything, leaves, carpets and stuff with this as well. So yeah, that is it. Next up we have the H2O curves. I think I have explained all of these before in a much detailed version, but I'm just gonna go through them real quick, and I'm not gonna be discussing all of its features. So H2O curves is basically if you drop it on an object, it's not gonna do anything. Then go to the vertex groups and add a vertex group and name it as 1. Just type 1 there and go to edit mode. For this you need some geometry in your mesh, and I'm just gonna add some loop cuts here, and I'm gonna be selecting these vertices just like that. So I want a path of a droplet going like this. So now over here what I'm gonna do is just keep it clean, and this is my path. I'm gonna assign this. Now you can see I've added a small droplet here. I can basically just scale it up and down and have a trail of this as well, which is explained in the video. This is the animate button, and you can see the trail is not very smooth, not like this. So it is controlled by this track smoothing, just like that. If you go to the edit mode over here and create another vertex group, name it to 2, and now if you assign the same path to the second one as well, it's basically gonna reverse the path. So if you have some problems where the path is like it's inverted, you're gonna have to assign it to the second one. So I'm not gonna dive deeper into this because I've already explained this stuff. Next up we have the H2O add-on, and as I mentioned, it's now with the lazy motion pack right here. So if I just drag it and drop it onto the object, this is what it's gonna do, and if I just play my timeline, it's animating the droplets. And there's a ton of features here. You can get realistic condensation effects from this, but I've already made a full guide on this and you can watch that instead. Next up we have the ice-off effect. So this is very interesting. For this, keep in mind you have to have some nice geometry here. I've already added loop cuts and stuff here, so I'm gonna add a few more over there and just clean this up a little bit more, because good geometry is very important in this asset and many other assets. So now that we have a fairly nice geometry, I'm gonna drop the ice-off effect onto the product. And you can see the product is a little bit scaled up if you noticed. And now if I just change this ice-off value while holding shift, this will give me a finer control over the slider. So if I just move this, you can see it's cracking up the ice around the product. And if I just move it and go to material preview, we already have ice on here. So it's assigned a material to the product as well. So if you wanna remove this and have your own materials for the product, you can do that. It's assigned by default, which I might remove. So yeah, if I remove it, this is what it is. Now next up, what we can do here is change the fracture density. It's going to be a lot more fractures here. If I bring it down, you can see the pieces are getting bigger and lesser. If I bring it up, there are a lot more pieces and they're a lot more in count. Then we have the top face scale. So it's basically the top face of this crack, of these ice cracks. So if I change the top face scale, you can see it is just scaling the top face of the ice over there. And then we have the rotation strength. So it's basically when we bring up the eyes off value just like this, it's gonna tell it how much to rotate the little pieces when it's like animating. So if I bring the strength up, they're gonna be rotated a lot when we animate this, just like that. They're gonna be rotating like that. So if it's a lot less, they're gonna be rotating a lot less, just like this. And you can hover over a value and just hit backspace to set it to the default value that I set for it. Next up we have the randomness. It is just the random positioning of these pieces. Then we have the fracture smoothing. So you can see the fractures were initially like this, and I've smoothed it out to make it look like that. So it's just an additional feature, you don't have to use that. Then we have the spray density. So there's a little bit of a spray that is occurring here with the ice, so you can change its density and the size as well, and also there's some seed for the pieces. Then you have material for the ice and material for the product if you want to change them. And I've turned on smooth by angle. It's just a shade smooth feature, just like that. Next one we have is the knitting effect. So this is a very cool one. If you just drag it and drop it onto the product, this is what you get initially. And I think we have a lot less geometry for this, so I'm just gonna hit all in the edit mode and right click and subdivide this. Maybe 2 times. Now this is looking good. Well, I subdivided this, but I didn't subdivide it smoothly. Like if you just go to edit mode and subdivide something, it's gonna look gritty. I mean grids like. So that's why you can use subdivision surface for a smoother result. I'm gonna set this to 2 and just apply it. Now if I turn on my knitting effect, you can see what it's doing. And if I play my timeline, it's just animating on its own place. But if I get this proximity control and move it around, you can see it's basically knitting my geometry. And if you want to change the direction of these threads, you can just move this empty around, and this is the proximity control, and you can rotate it just like this and move it to create this effect. But we have a lot more control right here in the modifier section. There's the progress. This is the progression of the effect, and we have a proximity control object, which is this one. It is already selected there. And then we have the mesh boundary. The mesh boundary is basically this. You're going to learn it yourself if you just practice with these assets, most of them, because some of them are kind of hidden, so you have to watch the mini tutorials for them. And this one is basically just creating more threads on the inner side of the mesh, and we have this as well. It's creating it on the outer side. Then we have keep distance, which is a little bit weird, but it keeps distance between the threads, so a lot less threads are added, and there's space between them. Then we have a mess. There's a little mess here, you can see, so it's just gonna shift the mess shift. What a nice name. Next up we have mess scale. So it's obvious. Then we have the size of the noise displays. So there's a little bit of a noise displays happening here. You can see this is wobbling around. So you can change its scale, you can change its speed, how fast it's moving, and you can change its strength on the mesh. Then some other stuff over here, which is the directional object. Like this is the directional object here, directional empty, the circle. And you have mesh material and threads material as well, so you'll find that there. And just gonna remove this now and delete these empties to get to the new asset. Now we have the levitation asset. So some of these are kind of boring, like a very few of them, not all, not many of them. I've done that on purpose, so it's a test. I'm gonna see how many people use these, and if it is a lot useful, I might start doing the simpler procedural assets, because these things can turn your renders into fast animations, and you can charge some extra for this kind of stuff without wasting time on animation. So if I just drag it and drop it onto the product, now if I go to my timeline over here and play it, you can see the start frame is 1 and the up duration, for the duration it's gonna be going up and then stop at 60. Then the end rotations, these are when on frame 60 it's gonna be rotated like this, and the Z height, which is how high the product is gonna go up, then is the down duration, which is how fast and how many frames it's gonna drop. So it's gonna drop in 15 frames. It is very calculated. Then you have drop Z rotation offset. So when it drops down, is it rotated a little while dropping down? And then you have some manual keyframing as well if you don't want to use the auto animate mode. So if I just play my timeline here, the product is going up and it's dropping down and rotated on the Z-axis as well. So let's say I wanted to bring up or move up in the first 40 frames. So first 40 frames, it has gone up. Now it's gonna come down. That's it. And on frame 40, now you can change this value and see on which side you want it to rotate. So if I want it like this, that's okay. I can just move back, and that's it. That's the levitation effect. It's kind of experimental asset here. Without any keyframes, you can do stuff like this, which is pretty nice actually. Now next up we have the merger asset. You might be wondering what this is for. So let's say you have the two assets. Mainly it's used for assets that are, that are able to merge together. So if we have a water on path asset, and then we have a bubbles on path asset, and we can have a ripples effect on a plane. So let's add a plane. We're gonna subdivide it a few times. We're gonna apply the scale over here and add ripples to it. So these are some nice ripples added here. And now what we want to do is, if you look at this, what if I wanted to add droplets that were coming into the middle of these ripples? So what would I do is I would get those droplets first. Just gonna drop it over here and scale it down to match it. So now you can see, look at this. If you want to render this, it's not gonna look as good, and many times I've needed a weld sort of effect over here between two simulations. Like if you had a real simulation or something, or any mesh or anything that you want to merge together, you can use the weld asset for this. So it is very easy. If you just here and get the merger, what I'm going to do is drop it into the scene first, and the merger is basically like an object first. You cannot drop it onto anything, but you can just drop it into your scene, and now you select the first object, which is my plane, and then you select the second object that you want to merge it with, and this is the other object. Now you're going to hide the two objects that were there, and just keep the merger over here. Now it's gonna keep your plane, and then it's gonna keep your plane and the other object together. So I think it's not detecting the plane, but don't worry, you just need to solidify the plane a little bit so that it can catch the remesh and stuff like that. So what I need to do is maybe add a solidify modifier onto this, and this should be fine. I'm just gonna hide it now, maybe give it a little bit more thickness, and now you can see that it is doing pretty well. While over here you can see they're merging good. Now we need to go to the blend option, which is basically a remesh, and you can bring down the voxel size. I made it 0.1 meters because sometimes sometimes it might surprise you and your computer might crash. So I always keep things viewport for viewport performance. So if I just bring it down, it will make it a lot smoother, but keep in mind you have to hold shift while doing this so you can slide it precisely. So 0.03 seems pretty nice, and I'm gonna get my plane and set this height a little bit lower, just like this. And now if I play it, it's gonna be a little bit laggy because two assets are merging together and they're being remeshed. So yeah, it's gonna do that, but you can just use this merger for your render and not the viewport, and your renders are gonna look nice. So you can see the way that these bubbles are merging into the ripply water, and that is what we wanted. So in the final modifier, it is a select a material, and you can select a material for this as well. So just like this, the water is merging pretty nicely into this thing, and you can use this with planes that are using dynamic paint and stuff like that. It is the mesh gen effect. I have tried to do this effect for like a year or two now, and I wasn't getting the effect that I wanted yet. But a week or two ago, I finally figured it out, and I think it's promising and it looks pretty good. So if I just put this mesh gen effect and drop it onto my product, this is what it's doing. It looks a little bit fake right now, but let's just fix it. Go to add modifier, add a solidify on top, and when you do this, it looks a lot better. It looks great. I wasn't able to ship a solidify with my modifier setup, but you can do this yourself. Just add a solidify after, and this layer is gonna look nice. You can add a subdivision later if you want it to look really clean, but I want my viewport to be fast for now. So if I just play the timeline, you can see the mesh gen effect working like this. So this is how it plays out, and it looks really great on Suzanne as well. I've tried it, and yeah, it is an amazing effect, and you can use this for products and everything. Now one more thing about this is you can use a mask for these edges, which I've used before here. If I go to the shading tab right over here and create a new material for this object, and then add an attribute node, I can basically separate the mask by typing mask here, and add a mix shader node, add a glass BSDF, and select that and set it to the second shader and connect the factor to the factor. Now let's preview this mask if it's giving anything to us yet. Okay, the mask name was incorrect. I'm gonna name it correctly, so just keep in mind, type edge here, EDGE. Just type that, no uppercase, just type edge there, and you got an edge here that you can use to separate the glass from the main mesh that you have here. So this is really cool. You can see the edge is looking like a glass, and you can use color ramp and stuff over here to manipulate this edge a little better. And this is it. You can see how cool this looks. So that's the edge, and you can create crazy effects with this. So yeah, that was the mesh gen effect. And then there's some settings that you might want to know about. So here's the start offset. Like maybe if you wanted to start from frame 40, you can just start the offset, just move this value back and forth until you reach this little point where it's starting. And if you play this, that is the start. Next up we have the speed, just the speed of it changes that. And if you turn off the auto animate, then you can use the manual one. And if you have to invert the effect, you can do that as well. So let's say I invert my effect, it's just going back. And if I turn on the invert, it's going forward, because I think by default it's not inverted. Now we have the noise scale. So if you look at this is basically using a noise texture, and if I scale it, you can see a lot of noise is appearing there, and there's some distortion on the same noise texture and noise strength that we have there. Then you have only push out. This is a button where if you want the edges that are distorting to only push out, just like this, and be straight and not move into a mesh that you have maybe under there, then you can use this option. And there's a noise speed if you want to change that. Then you have the edge offset. You can move it back and forth to change this along normal offset. So maybe if you want to move the mesh along the normals, just like this, you can do that as well. I think it was supposed to only move the edges, but it's moving the whole geometry. I think I probably am gonna fix this bug later, but yeah. Next up we have the motion domain. So if I just drag it and drop it into the scene and select the product, now I might have to scale it a little bit up, just like this. There's a lot of objects here. I might want to bring up the distance. And now let's just hit tab and scale this cube up a lot more. Move it along the x-axis just like that to show you better. And now play it. You can see it's automatically animated, but the origin point of our object is right at the bottom, so this is looking a little bit weird. Now if you move it to the center, just like this, and now if I play the animation, it's gonna be a lot more cooler. So yeah, this is basically it. We have the object scale, we have the speed of the rotations, and we have the distance from each other. We have the randomness. Like if you change it a lot, I think it's gonna be moving a lot more random. And yeah, there's nothing else here. You can choose a collection here. Like if you select a collection, if you want to do that, if your product consists of a collection of different parts, there's a head of the bottle or more label and stuff like that. I would prefer myself joining those objects together, but if you want to use a collection, that is no problem. You can use a collection just selecting it over here, and make sure that this object is not in the collection that you're selecting here, because it's going to give you an error there. And if your collection has many products, like 6 different colors of your product, then what you need to do is just turn off this button, and then it's gonna treat all the objects in the collection as individual objects. So let's say I move this to the side and duplicate it and scale it on the z-axis down and create a new collection from this. This is gonna be my new. I'm just gonna name it new. And now what you have to do is just remove that, or not, maybe just select the new collection here, and you can see the little one and the bigger one are both here, and they are treated as one object. If I move them together like this, you can see that they are treated as one object. They're part of one. And if I tell it that these are two different objects, don't treat them as one, I'm just going to turn this off, and you can see the little one over here. Maybe I need to control A apply scale on the little one so that it is detected as this, and you can see whenever something is wrong with your objects or products here, you just have to apply scale or rotation. Sometimes that's most of the time gonna fix it. So now we have object scale, speed, distance, randomness, all of this figured out, and yeah, let's get into the next one. Next up we have the PopUp Pro. So I needed this asset a few days ago on an animation for an energy drink. So basically I needed some fruits and objects from behind the product to kind of pop out and showcase the flavor. So let me create some scenario that you can understand here. So it basically makes things pop out. So yeah, I like ingredients and stuff like that behind the product, and or making things pop out in your scene just without animating them really. So you just turn them on, all of them, and change the frame seed value. It is very helpful, the frame seed. It's gonna change where each of them start, so just keep changing that until you get something good. So I'm gonna play this now. This looks very weird, but let me just change the frame seed for this one a little bit. Like this. So make sure all of them are disappearing before frame 1. Just like this. You can see it has potential, but you need to be changing the start frame values for each of them, or keep the frame seed for all of them at 0 and figure out the start frame and keep it random, like start 1 at 20, second at 25, third at 30, and make them pop out randomly. And if I set this to 0, the random frame seed is not going to affect the start frame of it. So you have to set it to 0 before, if you want to figure out your own start frame for this. And then you have the speed for this, which is just a speed, and rotation seed. If I change this, just rotation, it changes that. I'm gonna change it for this one as well. Change it for this one. Change it for this one. And in turns, it's how many rotations you want in one. So if I bring it up to 6, I think it's rotating a lot now. Maybe. Yeah, it is rotating a lot, and we don't want that, so just bring it down. I'm gonna hit Alt R on this one and move it over here, and this is the turns, and this is the end rotation, so end location. So let's say this one is popping out from the bottom to the top like this, and the end location on the z-axis is 1. If I bring it up, you can see, if I play it now, it's moving up over there. So yeah, it affects the whole animation over here. Then we have random start range. It looks at how much random do you want the starts of each one, and then it basically looks at the frame seed as well. Then there's a translation offset, so if you wanted the product to rotate first and then translate, or translate first, this is the offset between that. Then we have the end scale, which is the final scale of the product when it scales up, just like this. Yeah, and then you have the origin, translation, and rotation. This is just the starting offset of everything. So yeah, I'm just gonna delete these objects. This is probably the most unpleasant demos of all of these, but you are gonna need it one day. Next up we have the projector. I like this very much. It's a very cool asset. If I just hit Alt G and move everything into position like this, and I'm gonna select my product here. Now over here I'm just gonna rotate it like this, RX90. Okay, I selected an instance object, which basically tells it that this is my instance. No, this is not. I'm gonna select the proximity object first, like this, so it's creating a bottle kind of shape for me. Now I'm gonna hit tab, go into the edit mode, maybe subdivide this once. Now the scale can be modified for this, like that. And you have some distance minimum features, and you have some density, seed, and then we have auto animate, which animates everything by itself. And you can see you can do a lot of cool things with this. Like if I had a nice flower, nice collection of flowers over here, and I can select all of them here at once. So you can see the potential for this one, and these are kind of rotating and moving away and scaling down and up like that. And we have if you turn off the auto animate, you can just use the animate slider, and then you have the rings, how many rings you want here. If you want less, then there's gonna be like a nice collection of them, a wave of them appearing and disappearing like that. If you have more rings there, then it's more rings like that, and you have to change it. If you have a lot of rings, you have to change the speed and bring it down to make it everything slower, and just like this. But you can basically just change the speed and it will work perfectly fine later. And then we have the offset, which is basically just the offset of these rings moving like that. And you can set the speed to negative. You can set the speed to negative, so they're moving in the other direction. Next up we have the height. You can decide how high you want these to be. Like if I bring this up, you can see they're kind of jumping up, scaling up, and rotating. And then there's the Z prox offset. So this is just my proximity object moving up and down. It's nothing much. So this was a nice asset, and you know, there's a lot of potential for this one. You can just move your product and everything is dynamic. So yeah. Ripples effect, I've shown you this in the merger as well, but this is basically you just get a plane here, you scale it up, apply the scale, hit tab, subdivide it a lot of times just like this, not a lot but just normal, and then you just put a ripples effect on top of that. And now I just move the product up. You can play it already, the ripples are moving, and the viewport performance option is turned on. So if I turn it off, everything's gonna be a lot more smoother, but it's gonna cost me some frame rate. Now I'm just gonna select my product here, and once that is selected, I'm just gonna rotate it into place. You can see how dynamic this is, and you can change this from auto to manual, just animate it yourself, but I like to keep it on auto and just play the timeline. This is what it looks like. Next up we have if I turn off the optimize, you can see this is what it's doing. But yeah, this optimize feature is not going to affect your render, so you can keep it on and render everything, and it's gonna look like this one. So now we have the rings, yeah, the same thing. If you want it to be bigger or smaller, you have you want to add distortion, you want to add some speed, height, fade end, and fade start. And then you have a after division if you want to add in a subdivision later on top of the whole simulation or effect. Then you have get mask, which is just a mask for these waves, and if you want to use this mask you can use that, which basically means you can just do this in shading as well, just get that mask and use it as a bump, but you might need it for some effects that you need to do. So just click on get mask, and wave's attribute name is mask. Just add an attribute node in the shading attribute. So when you add that node, type mask in the name socket of that, and this is basically it. I'm just gonna delete this plane. Next up we have I didn't count it as an asset, but yeah, just add it there. You might need it sometime, and yeah, let's just try to use it and see. Add in a torus. Let's see if this is a donut or something. Apply rotation, Alt G, drag it and drop it onto the product. This is basically it. It rolls things and you can mirror it or not mirror it, but on a flat ground. For example, this can be pieces of a watermelon or a lemon or an orange for a commercial. Circular pieces that are cut, they're kind of rolling away to show the product. These help out sometimes, like maybe apples are rolling away from the scene like this. There's a lot of scenarios where you can use this probably, I think. So yeah, with these assets, this is the old library and this is the new one. So I think we have almost 40 to 50 assets, and this is a huge deal. I'm so proud of this project that I've been doing for the past couple of months, and I hope you liked these assets. Next up we have the shift line A. A little bit boring, but a very nice asset. If I just drag it and drop it onto my product, you can see it is giving me that very nice effect that some of us might have wanted at least once. So yeah, it is a procedural way of doing that, and in the plus over here I can just select a collection as well, and then we have my, where's my product scale here? Okay, I think it is on a, for now I should be able to change it from just edit mode and scaling this down, and it should work perfectly fine. And yeah, I'll add a scale thing for you here, and then we have some axes. Like if I change this, you can see it is the location axis. If I move it like this, so first let's just try and move this controller along the y-axis. You can see what this is doing is basically I'm gonna just add it on a cube so that you can see it properly, and shift line A. I'm gonna hide the product. I'm gonna scale this cube down a little bit. Okay, this is what it's doing. So let's say you have the major product right over here and the camera is moving like this, and you wanna like move these away from, move this, you're just telling them to clear the way, and then you just move from these products and show the final product right over there. So yeah, these are rotating and clearing the way for you. I sound stupid, but this is a very nice asset and you might use it. There's a very few of these assets, like 1, 2 or 3, and I don't even count them as assets, but yeah, these are fun. And we have if you use the z-axis, you can see if I just move this now, and it is using the z-axis and moving up like that. You will need this one day, and you want to use some proximity object to move some objects, rotate some objects, and you need to use the location strength. If you want to use 0 strength, it will just be rotated. If you want to use 0 strength for the rotation, it will just be located up and down, and rotations won't apply. Then we have some offsets for these as well, and this is the rotation axis. So if I just spin this and move this along the y-axis, this is what it's doing, and change this to something else. Now this is what it's doing. I know you're gonna need this. I just have doubts, but yeah, you probably think you can use it. and this is it, I think. Now we have the invert feature, which basically just inverts the effect for the locations, and then we have the mirror. You can use one side or both sides as well. And then that is some offset that we have that you can use. The line is this one, and it is the controller. I'm just gonna delete these. Hit Alt H. I'm gonna delete these as well, like that. Remove the shift line and the line as well. Okay, let's get into the shift line B, which is basically the same thing as the shift line A. Now we have the slideshow A. Okay, this one is really good. So for this, I'm just gonna make my origin at the bottom right there. And this is an amazing asset. I love this one. I have achieved this, all of it, inside of geometry nodes, just with procedural setups like nodes, no keyframes and wobs. So I'm just gonna drag it and drop it onto the product. And here we go. On the Z-axis, I'm gonna need to scale my product up like this. Maybe apply scale, doesn't matter. And now just play it. So maybe this is my camera view and I can start playing this. Wow, this is really great. I haven't added a invert feature for this animation, but you can just set the speed to -1 to invert this. Just think a little bit. Maybe speed it to -1.9 to make it faster. You can set up the count dynamically, like the more count, the faster it's gonna be as well. So you're gonna have to adjust the speed along with the count. And then we have the manual thing. You can use it manually as well, and the same kind of the animation ramps are gonna apply onto this, and it's gonna act the same way, but you're gonna have to animate it linearly, not with a bezier or stuff like that. So I think this can be a loop as well, an easy loop. You have the curve. You can select different types of curves, and you can edit this curve for your camera view. You can select a collection here, and yeah, the collection can be one product, like different parts of a single product, or it can be many products, like many variations or flavors of a product in different colors. So if they are one object, you can just keep this turned on, treat as one object. And if there are a lot of objects in your collection that you want to treat individually, then you can just keep this turned off. And you're gonna need to create a new collection for that and make sure this object is not in that collection. I have explained this a lot of times, but just listen to what I say here. Now I'm just gonna remove this and now use some other asset. Next up, we have the slideshow B. Just put it on the product, drag and drop, and play it. We have a curve already imported. Rise it up, play it. It's looking awesome. Have other types of curves, and it's still gonna look great. Let's see how that looks like. Okay, this is kind of funny, but let me just try to make sense of this one. I wish I could just bevel this edge over there, but I can't. I don't know. Maybe I'll subdivide this and move these 2 points. RZ, no, that's not helping. RZ. Look at that. I'm creating some cool effects here, man. Let me just try to do this one. Okay, let's see this. The slideshow is a very nice effect, and you can use this like for many things. That was just experimental stuff that I was doing. So yeah, check it out. And the settings are just like slideshow B, so just you can pick the tutorial from there if you are using it. This one is like one of the best assets here, so it is the spray asset. I love this one. So if you just move it into the scene and rotate it accordingly, and you can see what this is gonna do. If I play it, it is spraying, and you can change it to manual, and you can change the spray start. So if you want to start it from somewhere like this and then let it go like that, you can do that. Spray count, you have count control, you have speed control, you have scale control, and you have offset scale. Yeah, this is just the endings of those things are moving towards you like this. Then you have new droplet collections. So if you have a lot of droplets you want to use here, you can choose the collection there. And then these are these tips that you can move as well. So basically a very simple asset that can do cool things, you know. And then you can change the material from here. We have next asset. I haven't figured out a name for this. The name that I chose here is basically not a word. It was a typo. Sprinkles. I don't know what that is, but just drag it and drop it onto the product and go to the material preview. This is what it basically does. You can see, and for the material I have them use the material named particles, so I can just add it here. If you wanna maybe edit that material, go to the shader editor, and over here this is the setup for that material. So you can change the particles. This works a lot better and it looks amazing when you go to the compositor and use nodes, add a glare node. Glare is the best here, so you can go here and click on compositor always. So just set this to always, and now you see here some stuff happens, you know, and you can add more iterations, make it high quality, and then add some more streaks, you know, and other features that you might want to change. I'm gonna change the world to something more. It looks a lot better in rendered views and stuff like that. Simple star could work like this. Then we have some mix. Then we have some threshold if you want some to be sparkling and you want some not to sparkle a lot. So this is the thing. You can add this on anything and it should work. I'm gonna remove this and go to the asset browser. We have its density features, its speed, movement scale, how far do they go from the object, and material, and its size. And then we have a little bit of a tip: use glare node in compositing for glare. Simple. Next up we have the swirls. So you can use this along with other shots. So if you have a cool shot or anything else, like if I have a green sort of product, you can give them green color, and these things are just going to be moving in your scene and you can place them randomly. I think this is going to make things look a lot more interesting if you have some depth of field going on there. And if I play this, maybe I'll animate it manually. So this is the manual animate here. You can animate this manually, and trust me, this is gonna look amazing once you try to figure out how you use this in different scenarios. So we have the twist feature, and these shapes can be changed like a lot. So we have a twist, we have some corners, how many corners you want here. We have some thickness options. If I turn off the viewport performance, You can see it's a lot more smoother, but I have to have performance, you know, that's why I keep it low poly. Then we have the X and Y stretching of this thing, which means if I have 4 corners, I can stretch this like that. And final divisions on top, bevel cuts, bevel percentage, and edge crease. This looks great. And then we have the material. That's just it. These can be great additions to your animations. And these are basically curves. You can go to the edit mode and just get the draw tool and start drawing your curve. Like whatever you want to draw here, you can just draw it and it'll be there when you go to the object mode and just play it. Next up we have the tornado. Oh, this is one of the best, like H2O, iSoft, knitting, merger, mesh gen, motion domain. Those are one of the best assets with slideshows and with the spray, with the ripples, cloth on path. This is one of them. So if I bring it and drag it and drop it into the scene, you can see this is amazing. So I'm just gonna scale it up a little bit into my scene. Okay, now you can see I have all these options and there's a lot of them, but mainly what you want to focus on is just select your product there and maybe apply the scale on your product. Maybe we can just scale it down a little bit over here, and also push product down a little bit just like that. I'm gonna hide our main product and I'm gonna scale it down a little bit more so that the tornado looks a lot bigger. And just like this, you can see in the water they're kind of moving and wobbling around, and that is basically it. I mean, this looks great. Get a quick, you know, like a gradient texture, set it to easing, go to the rendered view and cycles. This could look great, you know. You can see I have the viewport performance turned on over there, but in the render view it's always going to look a lot more detailed, and it's actually going to look like this because we don't really need the viewport performance while rendering, you know. So you can see the mesh is a lot more detailed and the viewport performance is dropping a little bit but not too much. And you can see this looks really great, and there's some bubbles on top over there, and you know, you can change a lot of these settings. We have the manual animate. If you turn this off, you can use that. You can do general speed. It controls the speed of everything in your scene. You have the object, just the product over there, and then you have collection. You can select a collection which consists of different pieces of one object, or it consists of different flavors or versions of an object. So set it to treat as one object if this is one object, and you can turn this off if these are a lot of objects in your collection that you're using up there. And then we have the scale for these instances, and now we have the offset of, you can just move them out of the water like that. You have a push product down, it just basically pushes your product down a little bit. Then you have the random scale minimum and random scale maximum, and then you have the density factor for these, density minimum, maximum, seed, and then you have the rotations. This is a random rotation, this doesn't matter. You have the distance minimum for the particles, and then you have the density for the particles, and then you have some seed, density factor, scale. This scale is actually for the top of this thing. I have categorized it wrong, but yeah, it's for that. I might change it later. You have the particle speed, how fast they wobble around like that. Then you have the particle noise strength, how far are they from the surface of the water. Then you have some size options for this, material for this. This is the water mesh. So water mesh speed, how fast it's rotating. Top face, it is basically the top face over there. You have some wave displacement strength, and you have some noise scale. You can bring this up to create nice effects. You can noise detail over here. This looks a lot more like water now. So yeah, the detail really helps, you know. You have noise distortion and twisting. How much do you want it to twist? Great. The water mesh material as well, you can change that. And extra noise on top, which is just some wobbling around of the mesh to make it look more watery. So you can just watch this back. I'm talking fast here because this is a boring list and you possibly can't remember them all, so you have to try it for yourself. Now you can go to the edit mode, and this is curve. You can move these things around and change this to the top. I hit Alt S on this and I bring it up and down to change this thing. Then we can hit Alt S on these points as well. Just make a tornado that you like, and this is it. You can use smoke, milk, chocolate, any kind of materials for this, and just put it on the mesh of this thing and put your products in there. So that is the tornado,